All right, so today we're going to do something a little bit different. We're still doing a deep dive, but this time we're time traveling, well, sort of. We're going to be tapping into a technique that I think you're going to love, especially if you are someone who is all about peak performance.
Yeah, it's really about accessing wisdom before life forces you to learn it the hard way. And the amazing thing is you might already have this wisdom inside of you.
Okay, so that sounds pretty mystical. How is that even possible?
It's not about crystal balls or anything like that. What we're really talking about is the power of visualization. And we're drawing inspiration here from Tal Ben-Shahar's book, Happier, along with some insights from Coach Ed Padalecki. And the idea is this. We are going to connect with your future self, someone who's already walked the path you're on and learned a thing or two along the way.
Okay, so like imagine my future self as a mentor. I think I like where this is going.
Exactly. Imagine using a time machine and fast forwarding to the end of your career. You meet your retired self, relaxed, enjoying the fruits of your labor. What would that version of you tell you about the choices you're making today?
Hold on, I got to paint a picture in my mind. Okay.
I got it.
So my retired self is lounging on a beach, probably with a ridiculously colorful drink.
Yeah.
And I'm sensing a lot of calmness and contentment and wisdom, of course.
Right. And now let's go even further. Fast forward to you at age 95. You have seen it all, experienced incredible highs and lows, and come out the other side with a profound sense of peace and understanding.
Whoa, 95-year-old me. That's a lot of wisdom. I'm picturing like some serious aura. Okay, so now I'm face to face with these two wiser versions of myself. What happens next?
Now comes the best part. You get to ask them questions. Imagine asking each of these future selves, what's the single most important lesson you've learned in life? And what advice would you give me about the challenges and opportunities I'm facing right now?
Wait, so I could actually get some advice about that project I'm stuck on, or like how to better handle that conflict at work.
Exactly what questions are on your mind right now that your future selves could help you with this is your chance to tap into a wealth of experience and perspective.
There's so many. Oh, okay, let's just say I'm really struggling with burnout. Would my future self tell me to push through it or to take a break?
That's a great question. And the amazing thing is the answers are already within. You think about it. Your future self is essentially an embodiment of your deepest values and aspirations. By connecting with them, you're tapping into your own inner wisdom.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this isn't just me daydreaming. There's some real potential for insight here. But I'll be honest, it still feels a bit abstract. How do we make this wisdom practical?
That's where the connection to peak performance comes in. Think of it this way. Your future self has already achieved whatever it is that you're striving for, so they can offer incredible guidance on how to get there.
So it's like I have a roadmap from someone who's already reached the destination.
Hmm.
I like that analogy.
Yeah.
But how do we actually use that roadmap?
It all starts with paying attention to the details. When you visualize your future selves,
Right.
what do they look like? How do they carry themselves? What energy do they project those details? Can reveal a lot about the path they took and the values they embody.
All right, so those details, they're not random. They're reflections of the choices and experiences that shape them.
Precisely. And once you have a sense of who those future selves are, you can start to decipher the advice they're giving you. Is it about prioritizing your well-being, taking more risks, being more present? The key is to connect their wisdom to your current situation.
Got it. So if my 95-year-old self is all about calmness and presence, maybe that's a sign that I need to focus more on mindfulness and stress management now.
Exactly. It's about bridging the gap between your long-term vision embodied in your future self and the small concrete actions you can take today to align with that vision. And that's where the real magic happens. And this is where Coach Padalecki's work comes into play in his Peak Performance Today newsletter. He talks about how high achievers like athletes, entrepreneurs, you name it, they're masters of balancing the big picture with daily action.
Okay, that makes sense. It's like having that huge vision, but also knowing those specific steps to take each day to move towards it. But how does that tie back to our time traveling thing?
It's all connected by connecting with your future selves. You're basically tapping into that long-term vision. And the advice they give you can actually provide clues about the daily actions that will help you get there.
So let's say my retired self tells me to really prioritize experiences over material possessions. Would the next step then be to think about how I can start doing that, like today?
Exactly. Maybe it's about spending less money on things you don't need and saving up for that trip. Or maybe it's about carving out more time for activities that you actually enjoy, even if that means saying no to commitments that don't really align with your values.
I see. So it's taking that big picture wisdom and then making it real with tangible action. So it's not just enough to have the vision you have to act on it.
Absolutely. And that's where I think a lot of people get stuck. They have these amazing dreams and goals, but they're not sure how to connect where they are now to where they want to be.
Okay, so how do we bridge that gap? How do we make sure that we're not just daydreaming about our future selves, but actually taking steps to become them?
It starts with asking yourself some really key questions like, what actions can I take today that are inspired by my future self's advice? What habits can I start building? What choices can I make that'll set me on the right path?
So breaking down those big goals into smaller, manageable steps. And then I guess the key is consistency.
Absolutely. It's like Coach Padalecki says, success isn't about giant leaps. It's about taking consistent, purposeful steps in the right direction.
I love that. But let's be real. Staying consistent can be hard. Life gets in, we get distracted, we lose motivation. So any tips for staying on track?
One thing that can be super helpful is creating a visual reminder of your future self and their advice. You could write down their words of wisdom on a sticky note and put it somewhere you'll see it every day, or even create a vision board with images that represent the life you want to create.
Oh, I love the vision board idea.
Mhm.
I'm a very visual person, so having that reminder would definitely help me stay focused on the bigger picture. But what about those days when motivation is just gone?
That's where connecting with your future self can be a game changer. Remember, they represent the wisest, most experienced version of you. They've already overcome challenges and achieved success. So when you're feeling lost or discouraged, take a moment to visualize them and ask yourself, what would my future self do in this situation?
So it's like having an inner mentor on call 24/7. That's pretty cool. I got to admit, though, there's still a part of me that's a little skeptical. How can I be sure that the advice I'm getting from my future self is actually wise and not just, me projecting my current desires?
That's a great question, and it brings up an important point. It's crucial to approach this with a healthy dose of self-awareness. Remember, your future self is still you. They have your values, your tendencies, even your blind spots.
So I need to watch out for potential biases.
Exactly. One way to do that is to consider whether the advice you're receiving actually aligns with your core values and principles. Does it feel authentic? Does it resonate with your deepest sense of self?
Okay, that makes sense. It's about checking in with my intuition and making sure the advice feels right. But what if it doesn't? What if the advice from my future self really challenges my current beliefs or my comfort zone?
That's where the real growth happens sometimes. The wisest advice is the advice we least want to hear. It might push us out of our comfort zone, challenge our assumptions, or even force us to confront some difficult truths.
So it's not about seeking validation from my future self, but rather seeking guidance and maybe even a little tough love.
Exactly. It's about being open to feedback, even if it's not what we want to hear. Remember, your future self has the benefit of hindsight and experience. They can see things from a perspective that you might not be able to access right now.
Okay, so it's a dialogue, not a one-way street. I need to be willing to listen, reflect, and maybe even argue with my future self a little bit.
Precisely. And that's where the magic of this exercise really lies. It's not about receiving a set of instructions to follow blindly. It's about engaging in a conversation with the wisest version of yourself and using their insights to guide your actions and decisions.
Yeah, so it's not just about passively receiving wisdom, but it's about actually engaging with it and even questioning it. That adds a whole new layer to this.
And that active engagement is what ultimately leads to transformation.
Right.
It's not enough to just visualize your future self and hear their advice. You got to take action.
Right? Action is where the rubber meets the road.
Yeah.
But sometimes taking action can feel so overwhelming, especially if the advice from my future self is you need to make a big change. Any tips for making that a little less daunting?
One thing that can really help is to break down the advice into smaller, more manageable steps. So instead of trying to change your whole life overnight, focus on making one small change at a time.
Okay, so if my future self is you need to be more assertive at work, I shouldn't try to be a completely different person tomorrow.
Exactly. Start by picking one specific situation where you can practice being more assertive. Maybe it's speaking up in a meeting or setting a boundary with a colleague.
That makes sense. It's about building momentum and confidence gradually. But what if I take action and it just totally flops? What if I try to be more assertive and it completely backfires?
Well, remember, even the most successful people experience setbacks and failures. It's all part of the process. The key is to see these setbacks as opportunities for learning and growth.
So don't give up at the first sign of difficulty.
Exactly. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this experience and how can I adjust my approach moving forward? Remember, your future self has likely faced similar challenges and found ways to overcome them, so you can tap into their resilience and determination.
Okay, so it's about embracing the process, even with all the bumps along the way.
Yeah.
But let's be real, sometimes it's hard to stay motivated, even with all this wisdom from our future selves. Any advice for those days when we just want to hit the snooze button on our dreams?
One thing that can be super powerful is to connect with your why. Why is this goal important to you? What impact will it have on your life and on the lives of the people around you?
So if I start to lose sight of the big picture, reminding myself why I'm doing this in the first place can help me get that motivation back.
Exactly. It's about tapping into that emotional fuel that drives you. And remember, your future self is living proof that your dreams are possible. They've already walked the path, so you know it can be done.
Wow, that's actually really inspiring. Knowing that my future self has already achieved what I'm working towards gives me a boost of confidence.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about visualizing our future selves, asking them for advice, and taking action. Is there anything else we can do to make this whole exercise even more powerful?
One thing I highly recommend is journaling after you've done the visualization. Take some time to write down the advice your future selves gave you, as well as any insights or reflections that came up.
So it's about capturing those insights before they disappear.
Exactly. And journaling can also help you keep track of your progress and celebrate your wins along the way. It's a really great tool for self-reflection and accountability.
I love that idea. It's like creating a written conversation with your future self.
Yeah.
Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one key takeaway you want our listeners to walk away with?
The wisdom you need to create a fulfilling and successful life is already within you. It's there, waiting to be accessed. This time travel exercise is simply a tool to help you tap into that inner wisdom and use it to guide your choices and actions.
So instead of waiting for life to throw us curveballs and teach us lessons the hard way, we can actually be proactive and seek guidance from the wisest versions of ourselves. It's like having a cheat sheet for life.
Exactly. And the most exciting part is that this is just the beginning. As you continue to connect with your future self and take inspired action, you'll unlock even greater levels of wisdom and potential.
This has been such a thought-provoking conversation. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling super inspired to connect with my future self and see what wisdom they have to share.
Me too. It's a journey of self-discovery that truly never ends.
And on that note, we'll leave you with this final thought. What if you started making decisions today as if your wisest future self was right there beside you, guiding you every step of the way? What would you do differently? What amazing things could you accomplish? Until next time, keep diving deep.